The Galactic Council dome floated above a dying white star, its crystal surface reflecting 1,000 ships, 1,000 nations, 1,000 faces shouting the same word again and again as if volume could replace truth. And in the middle of that giant circle, surrounded by predators, nobles, diplomats, kings, soldiers, machines, and species older than memory, stood the smallest delegation in the chamber. Just 15 humans wearing grey exile suits with no flags, no weapons, only quiet eyes that held more anger than galaxies could hold, and the Council's supreme speaker raised a golden staff that controlled gravity in the hall and said, in a voice that echoed through every world, the vote begins. Humans are guilty of forbidden creation. They will be removed from the galaxy. The screens showed proof, or what the Council called proof, images of a secret human research station orbiting a dying neutron star, blue lights bending around metal like wings of gravity, a machine that seemed to pull space like clay in the hands of a sculptor, a generator the size of a mountain built from star-core fragments, a thing no species was allowed to create since the old treaties after an ancient war destroyed 3 galaxies in one day. The speaker shouted that humans broke the law, and 900 species screamed like beasts, banging tables, throwing papers, calling humans liars, calling humans thieves of cosmic fire, calling humans a danger to existence, and yet the humans did not scream back. They stood like statues, silent, calm, almost cold, as if they came not to defend themselves but to understand the weight of the accusation. The human ambassador, a woman with dark eyes that looked like storm clouds, lifted her hand, but before she could speak, the speaker cut her voice by shutting the audio field, which was illegal in a trial, and said, "This council has seen enough. We vote." The humans stared at each other, not angry, not shocked, something deeper, a slow realization that the trial was not a trial. It was a trap, a decision already written before they entered the room. Every species pressed a button. The stardome lights flashed red. The holoscreen displayed the result in one cold line, exile approved, 97% majority. The speaker lowered the staff slowly, letting silence enter the chamber like poison gas, and then spoke the sentence that would change history: Earth is exiled forever. Leave the galaxy. The council guard stepped forward, tall blue soldiers with armor like stone, pointing weapons that many species feared for centuries, but the humans did not resist, did not scream, did not break. The ambassador simply nodded to her people, and every human placed a silver badge on the ground, the badge of representation, leaving it on the cold crystal floor like broken promises. She then looked at the council, eyes full of a thing no one understood, not sadness, not rage, something older, and said one simple sentence that echoed like prophecy: "You will regret this." Not a threat, not a scream, just a truth. The council laughed, sound like metal against stone, cruel and loud to hide fear. 1,000 species laughed behind screens across the galaxy via live transmission. Children in schools clapped because their teachers told them humans were monsters now. Soldiers in barracks toasted victory. Journalists wrote headlines, "Galaxy safe from human madness." People celebrated without knowing the truth of what was really happening. The humans walked out of the chamber, 15 figures walking through a corridor of spit, insults, thrown objects, cameras flashing like lightning, guards pushing them with weapon barrels. But not one human bowed, not one lowered their head, because in their eyes something already changed. The world they knew was gone, the galaxy they served had betrayed them, and the love humans once had for the stars died in that hall. They boarded a transport ship, a long grey vessel with no colors, and flew back to Earth, passing 1,000 alien ships that pointed guns at them like they were criminals. And when the human fleet gathered above Earth, tens of thousands of ships carrying every family, every scientist, every child, the Council broadcast the exile decree: all humans will leave the galaxy within 7 days. Any human found in Council space after that time will be destroyed. Earth responded with silence. No speeches. No pleas. No broadcast. Only the quiet movement of evacuating billions of souls into machines meant for peace, now turned into ships for exile. The launch was not dramatic like old human movies. It was pain. Families leaving oceans they loved, mountains they climbed, graves of ancestors they would never visit again. Children cried as they looked at stars thinking they would never see them from Earth's sky again. Elderly people touched soil before stepping on metal floors that would now be their forever ground. The human fleet lifted into space like a rising storm, engines glowing blue, covering Earth like wings of birds trying to protect a nest. Aliens across the galaxy watched live as humans left their home. Many laughing, many cheering, some crying privately, because a few new humans did not deserve this. Some old species whispered in ancient language that exile was a curse that would not end well for anyone. The human fleet traveled beyond the edge of known star maps, past neutral zones, past old battlefields filled with dead ships from wars no one remembers, past gravity scars in space where black holes once danced, into places where even light seemed afraid to enter. They found a star system with no planets, only dark dust and broken moons, a place no species wanted, and humans built a new home there, not on planets, but on giants of metal they created from hollow moons, turning the dead rock into cities filled with blue gardens and artificial sunlight. Humans built everything with their own hands, children learning to engineer before they learned to write poems. At first, the galaxy stopped thinking about humans. News turned to other things: trade wars, small battles, small politics. Schools stopped teaching human history, calling it dangerous. Soldiers told jokes about how humans probably died eating their own technology. Civilians laughed in bars saying humans are gone. The Council passed new laws banning all research into gravitobending and starcore technology, not because they cared about safety, but because they feared someone else might find what humans already discovered. They destroyed all files about the human project, deleted all recordings of the trial, erased any archive that connected humans with forbidden knowledge. The Council wanted history to forget humans built something powerful. But history does not forget so easily. Not when one species disappears with secrets inside their blood. After 7 years, strange signals began to appear. At first they were small, a dead star system waking for 2 seconds, emitting light that should not exist. A burned dwarf star glowing like someone touched its heart. Space dust moving in patterns like mathematics trying to speak. Council scientists said it was random. Nothing serious. But then trading ships returning from Outer Rim reported shadows, fleets moving without light, no engines visible, no radio emissions, only gravity tides like waves hitting their ship hulls, shaking metal like fear shaking bone. Civilian stations started hearing whispers through static, recordings that sounded like human voices mixed with digital patterns, saying lines no one could understand. Children in border colonies told teachers they dreamed of blue lights rising from darkness. Old miners said they saw a symbol carved into moon ice, Earth remembers. The Council tried to hide news, but rumors are faster than light. People in markets whispered, humans are building something in the dark. Soldiers in bars whispered, they found something out there. Scientists whispered, dead stars are waking because humans are using them. And slowly, respect returned, not public respect, but fear respect. The kind that comes when someone realizes they pushed a quiet monster into a cage made of stars. One trading vessel, an old ship called Silverdrift, was the first to see it clearly. The ship was returning from empty space routes, carrying minerals from unknown dust belts, when they saw a shape in darkness, massive, silent, black as night, shaped like a mountain floating sideways, covered in glowing blue lines like veins of a sleeping god, and when they tried to hail the ship, no answer came. Their scanners bled static. Their engines shut down like someone turned space off. The silver drift drifted toward the black shape without control, as if gravity itself was being rewritten by the thing they saw. And then, on the surface of that black ship, something glowed slowly, a symbol, a circle with a burning mark in the center. The ancient human symbol for Earth, the sun and its child. The crew screamed, some in fear, some in joy, because there was only one species that used that mark. They tried to record the image, but their systems collapsed again. Lights turning blue, voices crying from radios, not human voices, memories recorded in sound, we remember. The black ship passed, silent, no attack, no threat. But everywhere the story spread, people understood, humans are alive. And not just alive, changed. Within days, more reports came. Dead moons lighting like lanterns, gravity fields bending without engines, starless regions echoing human math like whispers, council beacons turning off when human shadows passed nearby. Old commanders shook in fear because they remembered something humans said centuries ago: "We don't start wars. We finish them." The council gathered again. The same stardome, the same seats, the same speaker, but now his voice was shaking. Screens showed ghost fleets in dark edges, shapes bigger than cities, ships that moved like shadows underwater. No engines. No heat. Only gravity pulling light. Council officers panicked. How did humans build this? Where did they get star-core technology? Why are they returning? And someone whispered, they were exiled with everything on Earth. Every genius, every machine, every child. We forced them to leave with their future. And someone else replied, maybe exile did not break them. Maybe exile forged them. The speaker tried to calm the hall, saying perhaps humans will come to negotiate. Perhaps they are peaceful. But an old general stood up and shouted something that silenced the hall. Humans left as a nation. They return as an empire. Silence fell like a stone. Everyone felt it. Exile did not erase humans. Exile gave humans nothing to lose. And when a species has nothing to lose, they can build the impossible. In the darkness between stars, the human fleet slowed. Thousands of black-veined ships gathered like a storm meeting itself. The human commander watched through invisible windows as the galaxy that betrayed them came into view. Bright, alive, innocent, unaware of what is coming, unaware that their actions gave birth to something stronger than fear. The commander spoke one sentence into the ship mind: we return not for revenge. We return because stars belong to everyone. The ships answered with the whisper that shook the dark: Earth remembers. When the human fleet vanished beyond the last star in the council maps, the galaxy breathed easier, thinking exile ends history like a closing door. But for humans, exile was not an ending. It was the first breath of a newborn empire forged in darkness without anyone watching. Because while alien worlds celebrated with fireworks, humans drifted through empty black like ghosts carrying broken memories. People living in metal halls where sunrise was an idea, not a real sky, children drawing Earth. In notebooks, even though they had never seen it except in digital dreams, old men whispering stories about oceans that tasted like salt, about forests where air smelled alive, about mountains older than hate, and every story passed through exile ships like medicine for hearts that refused to die, each voice saying the same thing in different ways: we will return home. The first years were hunger and fear, metal walls shaking from cold vacuum storms around dark stars, engines failing, food falling short, people fighting not against enemies but against despair, and leaders walked through corridors comforting crying families, holding hands of dying children, burying bodies without soil, because an exile death was recycled into energy and tears froze on cheeks when air filters failed. But even then, humans built hope like engineers build bridges over impossible gaps, using pain as stone and love as steel. They found their first refuge in a broken star system called Eris 9, a place forgotten by every map, orbiting a dead neutron star that pulsed like a heartbeat no one could hear. Its light so faint it looked like the memory of a sun. But humans saw it differently. They saw potential, because humans never look at ruins with fear, they look at ruins with plans, and they broke old moons into metal rivers. Melted rock into ships, mined gravity scars for power, turning death into life, turning exile into empire piece by piece. But the greatest change came not from machines, but from what humans discovered buried under the dead star. A structure older than language, a ring of metal fused into the star's skin, pulsing with faint blue energy, a machine whispering in frequencies no alien ever recorded, a machine covered in strange writing, shaped like human math but more advanced, as if someone, thousands of years ago, already understood how humans think. Scientists stared at it for days, trying to understand, until an old engineer placed his hand on the glowing metal and whispered with a shaking voice, "This is not alien, this is us." That sentence spread through ships like lightning without sound. Humans did not find technology. Humans found their future waiting for them in the past, a loop of destiny no council archive could explain. They studied the machine for years, slowly waking its systems one layer at a time, learning secrets hidden in blue code, learning how gravity can be shaped like clay when your fingers are millions of years long, learning how space can be folded like fabric if you understand how thought becomes math and math becomes physics. And when they activated its core, The machine did not show weapons, did not show war maps, it showed stars, billions of stars, arranged like a path, a road through darkness. Leading deeper than any empire ever traveled, a map showing a place where humans belong, not at the edge of the galaxy, but beyond it, in the unseen dark where the next evolution waits like a seed under frozen soil. And humans understood something the Council never imagined. Exile did not trap them. Exile freed them from rules made by species afraid to grow. Year by year, the human fleet transformed into something new, something no longer shaped by Council culture, something shaped by silence, by hardship, by unity. Because when you live in darkness, you do not have room for hate between yourself. You only have room for survival, room for shared dreams whispered to children sleeping in metal beds while engines hum like lullabies. And those children grew up watching their parents bend stars, build cities in vacuum, harvest energy from broken suns. Like farmers harvest wheat, children trained not to dominate worlds, but to protect each other, because exile taught humans that the galaxy is not a prize. The galaxy is a responsibility. The machine's knowledge changed human technology. Ships evolved from metal to hybrid star fabric, hulls growing like crystal bones, engines breathing gravity instead of burning fuel, weapons replaced by shields shaped like folding space. Technology so advanced it looked like magic to any outsider. But to humans it felt natural, like finishing a song their ancestors started thousands of years ago. Kings were replaced by councils made of engineers and teachers. Soldiers trained less to kill and more to end wars before they start. And the human motto changed from for Earth to for everyone who visits Earth. Exile did something the Council never expected. It killed human arrogance and replaced it with purpose. But even as they built a shining empire in darkness, one truth remained in every heart, the memory of betrayal. Every morning in artificial sunlight, every smile of a child born in exile, every breakthrough in science, every victory in survival, every piece of progress was touched by one shadow. The day the galaxy turned its back on them. That memory did not cause hate, it caused silence. The cold silence of a species that speaks with action instead of begging. Their leaders gathered after 11 years in darkness, standing in a council chamber built from black moon rock polished like mirror, where they could see their own reflection and the reflection of the starless void outside. And the commander, a woman older than exile itself, spoke quietly to millions watching through screens. We did not die. We learned. We did not hate. We grew. Now we return, not to destroy, but to correct history. And the crowd did not scream or cheer. They placed hands on hearts, the way humans do at graves, not at wars, because return was not celebration, return was responsibility. A duty to show the galaxy what humans became in exile. Then the first test came, a small mission, one ship, sent through the dark route toward Council border. Not to attack, not to conquer, but to watch. That ship disappeared in shadows, hidden by technology that bends light around hull like cloak, engines that do not glow, weapons that do not fire unless attacked. And when that ship reached the border, it saw something humans already expected. The Council expanded into territories humans once protected from pirates and rogue empires, using human absence to take what was never theirs, claiming stars humans once planted colonies on, ripping human flags from broken outposts like tearing pages from history books, pretending those worlds were always theirs. The ship recorded everything, the corruption, the stolen stars, the political lies, and sent it back through the dark route to exile systems, where millions watched in silence, the pain in their hearts turning into something sharper, purpose. The elders met again, looking older than time, faces showing lines carved by vacuum storms and sleepless nights in freezing ships, and they made one decision, not to destroy the Council, but to show the galaxy the truth, to return not as invaders, but as a mirror, showing every species what exile created, showing them technology that could heal, showing them a version of humanity that does not need revenge to feel strong. But before they could plan diplomacy, something happened that changed everything. The dead neutron star at the center of their empire, the broken sun of Eris 9, pulsed bright for the first time in a million years, blue like Earth's sky, light bursting across exile space like dawn breaking in a cave, waking systems built on silent moons, heating frozen gardens, illuminating faces that forgot what real sunlight feels like. Children screamed in joy. Adults cried like children. Elders fell to knees placing hands on metal floors warmed by star heat. That star was not just a sun. It was the machine awakening. The Council, billions of light-years away, detected the pulse and panicked, sensors showing impossible energy patterns, gravity waves stronger than fleets, readings that matched ancient forbidden tech, and the whispers began again on their worlds. Humans are building something in the dark. But now whispers turned into questions. What if exile made them stronger? What if the Council was wrong? What if humans return with something we cannot understand? And slowly, quietly, fear replaced laughter, because the galaxy realized that exile is not defeat. Exile is evolution when given to the right species. In exile, humans stood under their artificial sky, watching blue starlight from a dead sun, seeing themselves reflected in the eyes of children who would never remember Earth's oceans but would build oceans of stars instead. And the commander whispered, more to herself than to the crowd, "They think exile killed us. Exile gave us everything." And that sentence did not sound like revenge. It sounded like truth spoken after long suffering, truth born from graves and dreams, truth shaped by a species that does not break when pushed into darkness. The fleets prepared for return, engines humming like a promise made in blood, hulls glowing with blue veins of knowledge no law could forbid. Soldiers trained not to conquer planets but to conquer fear, to show the galaxy that exile did not create monsters. Exile created masters of their own destiny. Humans who will walk back into the galaxy not as beggars, not as criminals, not as threats, but as proof that a species cannot be erased by votes. A species cannot be buried by lies. A species cannot be exiled from stars they were born to reach. As the first ships aligned in the dark, facing the galaxy like a horizon they once lost, a whisper passed through every human ship, through every mind, through every memory, echoing the words they carved in exile stone, Earth remembers. And the whisper became a roar of millions speaking as one heart beating in metal bodies. We return. The dark stars trembled, space rippled around ship hulls, and gravity bent like curtains opening a stage, revealing the galaxy they once called home. Bright, loud, young, innocent. Unaware that the species they threw away had become something far beyond the Council's imagination. When the human fleet finally crossed the invisible border between exile and the galaxy that rejected them, space did not scream alarms or explode into war. It went quiet, like the universe held its breath. Because for 11 years humans disappeared beyond maps, beyond stars, beyond history itself, and now they returned not with flags or war songs but with silence. Silence so heavy it felt like gravity pressing on the hearts of every captain, every soldier, every child looking through dark windows at constellations they only saw in stories, and the first human ship to enter Council space did not shine like alien ships. It absorbed light. A mountain of black metal carrying blue veins that pulsed like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. The hull whispering faint energy lines that bent gravity like curtains, engines invisible, soundless, moving through stars like shadow walking underwater. On a trade route near the border, a civilian cargo ship named Krail Whisper saw the shape first. Its captain, an old lizard-skin trader, staring at the impossible silhouette in darkness, trying to understand if he was dreaming or witnessing history returning from death. Because no ship in the galaxy looked like that. No ship moved without engines. No ship showed gravity waves instead of heat, and when he tried to scan it, his computers died. Screens turned black, then blue, showing only one symbol glowing on hologlass, a circle with a burning center, the ancient symbol humans used for Earth, the sun rising from darkness, and the captain whispered in a voice too small for space, "They came back." His crew trembled, half in fear, half in awe, and the ship did not fire, did not speak, did not even notice them. It passed like a night storm passes over villages, leaving silence behind and shaking their souls without touching them. And as it passed, their radio broke into static mixed with a voice that sounded like memory itself, "Earth remembers." Then everything went dead again. The Council received the distress ping minutes later, and panic spread like radiation. Because nothing scares powerful empires more than not knowing, not being able to measure danger, not being able to study a threat, and every general, every admiral, every politician suddenly realized they had no data on what exile did to humans. No idea how far they evolved in darkness. No idea how much knowledge they learned from the machine buried under the dead star, and fear turned into orders. Fleets mobilized. Bases activated. Diplomats screamed for information. News channels played one sentence from the cargo ship again and again, a human symbol. And civilians in markets whispered like children scared of night stories. Humans are building something in the dark, and now they are here. In the council stardome, the supreme speaker tried to act like a leader, raising his staff, calling for calm, but his voice carried no power because everyone remembered the trial, everyone remembered the lies, everyone knew exile was not justice. Exile was politics wearing a mask of law, and now that mask cracked. The screen behind him showed ghost ships moving near the border, hundreds of them forming patterns that looked like math drawn into space. No radio, no heat signature, no sound, just gravity waves shaking nearby systems like ripples in glass, and scientists screamed numbers no one understood. Numbers showing star-core energy inside ship hulls. Technology that should take 10 million years to build, numbers showing space folding, like fabric twisting when someone pulls cloth from inside. The council began shouting again, "Why are they here? Do they want revenge? How do we fight this?" But in the noise no one heard the quiet truth spoken by a small alien historian sitting in the corner. Maybe they did not come to destroy. Maybe they came to show us what exile made them become. While empires panicked, while governments shook, the human fleet continued moving in silence, not a formation of war, but a procession, like ships walking home from a funeral, thousands of vessels aligned around a flagship bigger than any planet station. A ship shaped like a star crown made of black flame frozen in time. Its surface glowing with codes that looked alive, running like veins under glass, and inside that flagship, humans did not cheer or celebrate their return. They sat in silence, like travelers walking into a childhood home that hurt them. In command halls, screens showed planets humans once protected, now flying council flags, bases built on soil humans defended for generations, colonies renamed. Human history painted over like old words on a wall, and every human heart tightened with the heavy truth. They were gone long enough for the galaxy to forget their sacrifice. Children born in exile looked at those maps with confusion. Why is our planet gone? Why is our colony named after someone else? And parents did not answer because to answer means ripping scars open. They only whispered, "We will correct it with truth, not war." The human commander stood on the central platform, a woman who saw Earth's last sunrise before exile ships left the sky, her hair silver like reflected stars, her eyes dark like space without suns, and she looked at her people through millions of screens, speaking softly, but every ship heard her like a heartbeat. "We return not as victims. We return as survivors. Let them see us. Let them see what exile built." And ships responded by glowing blue, like long-held breath released, energy flowing through veins of metal, whispering the same answer, Earth remembers. No shouting, no drums, no soldiers beating armor, only memory speaking in unity. Near the council border, the first military contact happened, not by choice, but by fear. 12 council destroyers rushed to intercept the leading human vessel, engines burning bright, weapons charged, voices screaming orders, "Turn back or be destroyed. You are illegal in council space. Identify yourself." But humans did not answer. Not silence of arrogance. Silence of calm, silence of a species that has no fear of threats anymore, because exile taught them the worst pain already. The council ships fired warning shots, plasma beams crossing in front of the human flagship like burning ropes, but those beams bent around the hull like water bending around stone, disappearing into gravity wells humans controlled like they controlled breath, and the council captains screamed in shock. They absorbed it. They folded space. And then something strange happened. The human ship finally spoke, not through radio, not through hologram, but through a field of gravity sound, a voice without voice vibrating inside bones, inside hearts, inside metal, speaking one line in simple basic English every species understood because it entered their minds not through ears but through emotion. No hate. No war. No surrender. We return. The council ships froze, weapons online but captains paralyzed, because the voice carried no anger, no revenge, no hunger for conquest. Only purpose, only truth spoken like prayer, like a parent entering a home full of children fighting, not to punish, but to fix what broke. Soldiers on those ships lowered weapons without meaning to, hands shaking like a child holding a memory too heavy to carry. One captain began crying silently, because the voice reminded him of something. A human soldier who saved his life in an old war. Someone who died while pulling him out of burning wreckage. Someone he never thanked because the council told him humans were dangerous, someone whose name he forgot until this moment. The council tried to respond with force, sending more ships, building lines of fire across the border. But the human fleet did not break formation, did not turn away, did not speed up. It moved like a tide, like stars shifting position over millions of years, slow, unstoppable, inevitable, and the truth hit every commander watching. You cannot threaten someone who has already survived exile. Humans already lived through the worst thing the galaxy can do. They lost their world, their history, their honor, their place among stars, and survived. What weapon scares a species that learned to love children under artificial skies while building cities on dead moons? News spread faster than war. Every civilian network repeated the same sentence. Humans crossed the border. And children whispered, "Will they destroy us?" But elders answered, "If they wanted us dead, we would already be gone." That logic spread slowly, like warmth on cold hands, people realizing that human silence was not threat. It was message. A message saying exile did not create monsters. Exile created something new, something beyond fear. The council speaker called an emergency broadcast, his voice shaking badly, trying to sound powerful, accusing humans again, saying exile did not change law, that humans must leave or face destruction, that the council can kill them with combined fleets. But while he shouted, the galaxy saw the truth behind him. His eyes full of fear, his body trembling, his voice cracking. The fear of a leader who knows he committed injustice. The fear of a man who realizes history is coming back to judge him without firing a shot. Civilians saw that fear, and something changed. The galaxy's opinion began shifting like wind turning sand in desert. People who cheered exile now asked questions. Governments who supported the council now demanded proof. Species who hated humans now remembered human kindness in old wars. Stories resurfaced. Old tales of humans saving colonies from pirates, human doctors curing alien diseases, human engineers sharing technology for free, human soldiers dying for planets they had no blood ties to, and the galaxy remembered what they lost when they exiled humanity. Inside the flagship, the commander watched council broadcasts with calm sadness. Not joy, not victory, just the heavy feeling of truth coming too late, and she whispered to her officers, "We must show them who we became. We must not let anger lead our return." Officers nodded, eyes full of tears held back by duty, because every person on those ships remembered the night they left Earth, remembered the cold silence of exile, remembered promises made to children sleeping in metal beds, promises of return, not as conquerors, but as healers of history. The fleet began transmitting images, not threats, not weapons, but the truth of exile, children learning science under dark stars, gardens grown in metal halls, cities built on broken moons, people singing Earth songs to artificial suns, humans working together without borders, without greed, and the galaxy cried, because exile did not break humans, exile ended their division, ended their wars, ended their hunger for power, turned them into a united people carrying pain like torch lighting a new path. In one day, everything changed. Fear turned into respect, lies turned into questions, anger turned into shame, and one sentence passed across 10,000 worlds, whispered by parents to children, soldiers to each other, lovers in dark rooms, elders sitting alone watching stars, all saying the same thing. Humans are not coming to take the galaxy. Humans are coming to take their place in it. And in the darkness around the human fleet, a second wave of ships appeared, larger, older, shaped like mountains of black glass. The full force of the exiled empire. A sight so vast it made even supernova calculations look small. Ships carrying the weight of 11 years of silence, 11 years of evolution, 11 years of purpose, and every ship pulsed with the same silent sentence that echoed through space like heartbeat of something reborn. Earth remembers. When the full force of the exiled human empire appeared from the darkness like a second night swallowing stars, the council's fleets did not know whether to fire or bow. Their captains staring at screens like mirrors showing their future or their grave, because no one expected humans to return like this. Not angry, not loud, but calm, like a storm that has cried long enough to forget rage, like a soldier who already buried war inside his ribs. And that calm was more terrifying than hate could ever be, because hate is predictable but calm is destiny walking. The council tried to form a defensive wall, thousands of silver ships weaving into a shield like insects building a net, But before the wall could finish, the human flagship slowly approached, engines silent, gravity bending around its hull like the universe trying to hold its breath, and every laser sight locked onto that ship, waiting for one wrong move, one flash of aggression, one sign that humans came for revenge. Instead, humans did something no one understood. They stopped, floating in front of the enemy line like a guardian standing between two children fighting, and then they opened communication not with threats, not with demands, but with truth, broadcasting a simple video across every world. Images of exile, children sleeping near engine heat because their beds were cold metal, families planting gardens under dead stars because they wanted their children to see green dreams, scientists working with broken machines because they had no factories anymore, old soldiers teaching peace instead of war, teaching children that revenge turns the soul into the same darkness that hurt you. The galaxy watched grown men crying while forging steel with hands shaking from hunger, watched mothers reading stories of Earth oceans while sitting in rooms with no windows, watched tiny fingers drawing blue planets they've never seen except in dreams, and those images broke something inside species who considered themselves civilized, because they realized exile did not erase humanity. Exile purified it, removing arrogance, removing greed, leaving only purpose. The council leaders screamed that the video was manipulation, propaganda, lies meant to gain sympathy, but no one listened, not because humans were angels, but because the cruelty of exile was written on their faces, in their voices, in the way their children smiled with sadness they never deserved, and people across the galaxy began asking questions the council feared. If humans are so dangerous, why did they protect civilians in exile? If humans are monsters, why do they show us pain? Instead of power, why does their fleet come with silence instead of war? The council saw the loss of their control before the first shot was fired. Fear was shifting sides, flowing away from humans and toward the council. When it became clear that truth was winning faster than weapons could, the council gave a desperate command. Attack, a word spoken without honor, spoken not to defend the galaxy, but to defend their lies, and thousands of cannons charged, engines roared, metal screamed as fleets launched forward like a wall of knives, ships stretching across stars like lines written in desperation. And humans did nothing. They simply activated shields shaped like curved gravity, energy rising around hulls like water bending around stone, beams hitting those shields and vanishing like light falling into a black mirror, explosions swallowed by silence, rockets disappearing into folded space, and every council captain screamed orders without knowing what they were even fighting anymore. But humans did not return fire, not at fleets, not at soldiers. Humans targeted only weapons, disabling cannons, freezing engines, tearing war systems from ships like removing teeth from a furious beast but leaving the beast alive. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humans fought like surgeons, not killers, cutting the war apart without cutting life. One human ship drifted through fire like a dancer moving through rain, blue veins glowing on hull like rivers under ice, gravity waves wrapping enemy missiles and throwing them into empty space, saving ships that came to destroy them, and council soldiers stood on bridges watching their own weapons fall silent without death. A young pilot screamed to his commander, "Why aren't they killing us? They can." The commander, hands shaking, whispered, "Because they don't want revenge. They want history corrected." In the council stardome, screens showed their fleets collapsing without casualties, ships disabled, drifting like children who dropped their swords and looked around confused, realizing war does not need blood to be won. The Supreme Speaker tried to yell orders, but his voice sounded small, like a guilty man shouting in a temple. Behind him, ambassadors began standing, their faces pale, hearts full of something new, respect. Because no ruler in recorded time ever saw a species powerful enough to conquer stars choosing to fight with rules. Humans returned with ancient war laws that most empires considered weakness. Protect civilians before victory, no planet destruction, no hostage politics, no terror, no torture, no city bombardment, no execution of prisoners, no cultural erasure, no burning history. These rules were why humans were exiled. The council said only monsters use ancient technology, but the truth now stood in front of them. Only monsters lie to hide their fear of those who have rules. The first planet humans liberated was Relio Prime, a world that once belonged to Earth, its children taught to speak council language, its schools displaying the council symbol instead of the sun circle, its museums showing history rewritten to erase human names. When human ships arrived, Council forces expected total destruction. Fire raining from sky, buildings burning, screams rising like smoke, but humans did the opposite. They landed only near military bases, disabling weapons with pulses that feel like wind instead of explosions, walking through battlefields with empty hands, not firing a single shot until someone attacked them first, fighting like ghosts moving through fog, silent, efficient, precise, not killing soldiers, only freezing their armor with waves of cold gravity, placing them gently on ground like parents putting children to sleep. The civilians watched from windows, expecting horrors told in Council stories. Humans eat worlds, humans steal children, but they saw none of that. They saw humans planting their flag, a blue circle and shining mark, not on government building, but in the library, returning books that were erased, returning names of explorers, scientists, poets, soldiers, mothers, fathers, lives removed from history like dust wiped from mirror. And then a human commander did something that made even Council officers cry. She walked to Council Monument, the giant stone that claimed humans were criminals, and she did not destroy it. She placed a single flower at its base, a flower grown in exile, a symbol of forgiveness carved from pain, and whispered, loud enough for everyone, "Let history tell both sides." That moment spread across 10,000 worlds like fire made of truth. Civilians cried watching the flower. Soldiers cried realizing what they believed was a lie. Children touched screens asking, "Are humans good?" And parents answered through tears, "They were always good. We didn't know." Across the galaxy, crowds began chanting a phrase never spoken before: human law, human honor. Because honor is not power, honor is how power is used, and humans used power to protect the same people who betrayed them. The Council, cornered by truth, did something foolish. They ordered a planet bomb to force humans into rage, a dirty tactic, a trap to show humans as monsters, and humans responded in a way no empire ever imagined. Their fleet bent space like shield, wrapping the entire planet in a watercolor halo of blue light, blocking all Council missiles, absorbing every blast into gravity wells until missiles turned into harmless dust raining into ocean like broken meteor showers. People on surface looked up and saw the sky glowing with protective light, not destruction, and children reached hands towards stars like touching guardian angels. The Council understood the worst truth. Humanity returned stronger not in weapons, but in morals, stronger in heart than in war. Inside the flagship, humans cried, not because they won, but because they didn't have to kill. They cried for that victory more than any warlike species cries for conquest, because exile taught them the value of every life, even enemy life. Their leader looked at ocean waves glowing with pieces of broken missiles and whispered with cracked voice, "We are not here to conquer the stars. We are here to earn them." Across the galaxy, lies collapsed like broken temples. Empires began to defect from the Council, choosing to stand with humans, not out of fear, but out of awe, because trust is not given to those who never fall. Trust is given to those who fall into darkness and climb back without becoming darkness. Fleets that once hunted humans now turned toward Council capital, broadcasting images of human ships forming protective halos around planets, showing proof that humanity could win war without hate. On 100 worlds, children painted the human sun circle. Teachers told true stories of human bravery. Families lit candles for those who died in exile. People whispered apologies into sky like prayers carried by wind. Forgive us. Human conquest did not look like empire. It looked like correction, like erasing lies with truth, like turning war into medicine, like dividing power among species who once feared each other. Teaching that exile was not punishment, exile was training. Training for a species that will hold the future gently, not crush it like stone. And in the center of the galaxy, while worlds changed and armies switched sides, one line spread quietly across all networks, written by someone who watched humans from the day of exile to the day of return. The day the Council lost the war without losing a single life was also the day the galaxy learned the truth it was never supposed to know. Because while humans were protecting planets from missiles meant to trap them, something deeper unfolded in the shadows between stars. A leak, a betrayal from inside the Council, a quiet voice who could not live with the lie anymore, someone who watched humans save an entire world while the Council's orders were to destroy it. And their guilt became too heavy to breathe. So they sent one file into the galaxy network, a file containing everything. recordings of the secret meetings before exile, documents proving that humans never broke the ancient law, proof that the forbidden technology humans were accused of using was found, not built, found in ruins older than every empire, ruins buried under a dead star system called Eris 9, the same place humans made their home, the same place the Council feared humans would learn too much, and documents showing that the Council voted for exile not to protect the galaxy, but to steal the technology for themselves, to keep humans out of the stars, because the Council feared something greater than war. They feared a future led by a species that cannot be controlled. The files spread across 10,000 worlds in less than 1 hour, faster than weapons move, faster than fear itself, pouring into schools, into markets, into homes, into the screens of people who once believed humans were monsters, and the galaxy watched the truth with burning eyes. The trial was staged, the evidence was fake, the speaker gave orders to cut human voice, the vote was manipulated, and the exile sentence was written before humans even entered the chamber. Civilians screamed in shock in every language. Elders collapsed crying because they remembered the day humans left. Soldiers threw their council badges on the ground, ambassadors resigned on live broadcast, entire governments demanded answers, not about humans, but about the council's betrayal, asking why billions of children were raised on lies, why history books erased human names, why statues of human heroes were destroyed and replaced by council symbols, why generations were taught to fear the only species that fought for everyone without asking for reward. People looked at themselves in screens and felt shame, shame heavier than any punishment. Shame that they believed lies while humans suffered alone in darkness. Shame that their applause became nails in the coffin of truth. The streets of 100 worlds filled with protests, hologram signs glowing in the sky, truth first, return honor, exile was crime, bring humans home. And in the middle of all this fire of truth, something beautiful happened. Species who never trusted each other stood side by side, united not by fear, but by guilt and hope, realizing that if exile can turn humans into protectors, then maybe truth can turn the galaxy into a family. Inside the Council Stardome, the speaker sat alone, guards gone, advisors gone. Even the lights seemed to leave him, because truth has a way of taking comfort away from liars. Screens behind him showed his own face in leaked recordings, laughing after exile, mocking humans, saying the galaxy will forget them, saying humans will die in dark and history will thank us. And now his own words were knives cutting his power, his pride turning into poison. Ambassadors from 5,000 worlds entered the chamber, not as allies, but as judges, their eyes reflecting the reflection of his crimes. He stole the future, he erased a species' legacy, he turned knowledge into weapon against the innocent. He tried to speak, but his voice trembled like a child caught in lie. I did it for the galaxy. And someone shouted back, you did it for yourself. Another ambassador cried, you exiled the only species that protected us without price. And the chamber erupted not in violence, but in truth, truth spoken like storm, lightning of words hitting the man who once controlled stars. While the council burned from inside, the human fleet did not celebrate. They watched the protests with sadness instead of joy, watched people crying apologies into sky, children writing letters to humans saying we are sorry, old veterans kneeling in front of screens showing human flag, pressing their forehead to the ground like prayer for forgiveness, because forgiveness is heavier than victory. Human commanders sat in silence, officers shaking with emotion they never expected to feel. The galaxy did not fear them today, the galaxy regretted losing them, and that regret was louder than any gunfire. Tears fell in silent command rooms, not from weakness, but from the memory of exile so deep it feels like a scar in bone. Memory of hearing applause when the council voted to erase their future. Memory of leaving Earth in silence. Memory of sleeping with engines humming like broken lullabies. Memory of children asking why stars hate them. Now those children watched 10,000 worlds whisper humans, forgive us, and no one knew how to answer that kind of pain. One child on a distant world asked her mother, why did we exile them? And the mother, crying, answered, because we were taught lies. That one answer spread like cure across entire planets. Admitting guilt is the first step toward peace. Empires that once feared humans now sent fleets not with guns, but with flags lowered, lights glowing blue as symbol of peace, broadcasting messages into space. We stand with Earth. We offer protection. We reject exile. Ships from dozens of species formed a wall beside human fleet, not to attack the Council, but to protect humans, something no one could imagine 11 years ago. Enemies from old wars now shielding the very species they once feared. While the galaxy united, deep inside the Council archives a historian uncovered the oldest truth. The forbidden technology humans were accused of using was not human at all. It came from a dead civilization that disappeared millions of years before humans existed. A civilization that left behind a machine with instructions written in math any human would naturally decode, meaning the ancient architects left it for humans, not for the Council, not for other species. They saw something in humans that no one else saw. The ability to suffer, evolve, and protect even those who do not deserve protection. The historian read one line carved in ancient alloy near the star machine. For the children of blue sky, the ones who will walk fire without becoming fire. And he cried because he finally understood. Humans found their future in old stars because that future was always meant for them. The news of this ancient message spread like wind made of destiny, carried through ships and streets and networks, stirring something deep in every heart. If a civilization older than time trusted humans with the core of stars, then maybe humans are not danger. Maybe humans are the answer to danger, the shield that fate built against the darkest threats. Suddenly, the galaxy did not see humans as exiles. They saw humans as chosen not by gods, but by the universe itself, chosen to carry knowledge for future life, chosen to lead not for power, but for responsibility. Species who once spat on humans now whispered their name with respect the way old cultures whisper sacred legends. The Council tried one last time to hold power, issuing orders to arrest human envoys, to censor the ancient message, to control the galaxy's reaction, but no one obeyed. Armies refused commands. Captains shut weapons down. Civilians blocked military roads. Even Council guards lowered their rifles, looking at their leader and seeing not authority, only a frightened man who stole truth from stars. The Council fell, not with bombs or guns, but with shame, the strongest weapon humans could ever use without lifting a finger. And while the galaxy watched the old Council collapse, the new leaders formed a circle, representatives from hundreds of worlds, all different, all wounded by lies, and every one of them left a space empty in the center of the table, an empty chair facing the stars, with one line carved into metal beneath it, for the exiled. A promise that humans will return not as servants, not as rulers, but as equals, as the voice that was stolen from them. In exile ships, people cried, soldiers hugged strangers, commanders bowed heads to screens showing crowds chanting welcome home, and children pressed their palms against glass windows looking at worlds they had never touched glowing with lights of apology. The commander of the human fleet stood among her people. Eyes full of tears she spent 11 years hiding. Her voice quiet but shaking the universe inside every ship. They know the truth. We return. And the fleet lit blue like dawn rising from night. Ships spreading wings of gravity shaped like petals opening after frozen winter. Engines stirring like heartbeat waking from coma. And one whisper from millions of throats became the voice of a species that survived darkness without turning into darkness. Earth remembers, and the galaxy remembers us. When the truth crushed the Council like old stone breaking under its own lies, the galaxy did not become peaceful overnight. Because power does not vanish when a crown falls. It runs like poison through broken systems, hiding in the hearts of those who built their lives on fear. And as worlds rose in apology, as species reached hands toward humans with shaking voices saying we were wrong. The last shadows of the old Council gathered their fleets in secret dark sectors, led by admirals whose pride was louder than truth, men and women who could not accept that history would remember them as villains, who believed they could still rewrite the ending with fire, even if the galaxy already chose light. They gathered everything left, dreadnoughts painted black, planet burners built in silence, old war machines forbidden by ancient laws, engines burning like dying stars, weapons designed not to win wars but to erase worlds so no one else could inherit them, and their plan was simple enough to be madness. Destroy a planet to force humans into rage. Not just any planet, a neutral world full of civilians, children, old truth keepers from species who spent centuries fighting for peace. A world protected by new allies, a world that trusted humans to defend it. The last Council loyalists believed that if humans were forced to watch millions die, the exiled empire would finally show its hidden monster, that the galaxy would once again fear humans, that the old power would return on rivers of blood. They sent their fleet like a knife in night, engines silent, weapons hot, gravity nets ready to crush a planet's core, and as they arrived, every sensor on that world screamed doom, alarms echoing through streets where children played under blue trees, elders teaching history under open sky, families building new homes with hope still fresh. People ran to shelters, hugging loved ones, whispering prayers to skies glowing red with fire, thinking this was the end of dreams they just began to trust. But before the first planet breaker fired, before darkness could erase innocence, space itself twisted like a curtain torn open by invisible hands, and the human fleet arrived not like army, but like shield, thousands of ships folding into reality like petals opening from black flower, hulls glowing blue veins, gravity fields blooming like halos, wrapping the planet in light shaped like a dome of morning sky, and missiles meant to kill millions hit the shield and became dust, falling like glowing snow into oceans, children looking up and laughing without understanding how close death was, parents collapsing as shock turned into tears, because they just saw war turned into rain. The Council loyalists screamed at their screens, "Impossible!" They bent gravity again. They saved them. They saved them. Because no one believed humans could protect an entire world in seconds, not with violence, but with pure defense, bending the laws of stars not to kill, but to save everyone, even the enemies who wanted them destroyed. Inside the flagship, human officers trembled watching broken missiles become harmless glitter in atmosphere, their hearts shaking not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility, the weight that comes when one choice can change the destiny of stars. The commander stood at the center of the command hall, eyes reflecting fire outside, voice soft but sharp like truth itself. "We do not answer murder with murder. We answer it with protection." And that sentence echoed through the hive of ships like lore deeper than any code ever written by empires. Humans launched no counterattack. No missiles, no cannons, no flame. They used pure gravity, grabbing enemy fleets with invisible hands, freezing engines without breaking hulls, locking weapons like parents stopping children from harming themselves, holding thousands of soldiers alive even though those soldiers came to kill innocents. Council admirals screamed orders, "Fight! Die with honor." But their crews looked at screens showing children running under blue sky protected by human light, and something inside them broke. They dropped their weapons, opened their hatches, surrendered crying. Because when you see mercy that powerful, you cannot follow cruelty anymore. The old council leaders watched their fleet surrender, watched civilians cheer humans, watched worlds send messages of love and shame, watched their empire collapse not with explosions, but with respect, and in their final moment, they understood the truth they feared for years. Humans do not need war to win. Humans win by protecting what others destroy. Their plan to expose humans as monsters did the opposite. It exposed humans as protectors, guardians not because of power, but because of heart. One broken admiral whispered into dark, "Exile made them better than us." And with that line, he surrendered too, his ship turning off all systems, drifting empty into human gravity like a leaf falling into river. The galaxy watched this battle live, billions of eyes in millions of cities, markets, homes, ships, stations, watching a war with no blood, watching weapons turned into rain, watching killers saved by those they tried to kill, and the reaction was not silence. It was grief and pride mixed together, grief for what humans suffered alone, pride for what they became because of suffering. On distant worlds, children hugged each other whispering humans saved us, elders bowed towards sky whispering forgive us for exile. Soldiers threw medals into rivers because they realized medals mean nothing if your heart is empty. After the last enemy ship shut engines, the commander broadcast one final message, not only to council fleets, but to the entire galaxy, her voice carrying no hate, only exhaustion soaked in love. "We did not return to conquer stars. We returned to protect children. All children." And those words crossed languages like sunlight crossing windows, understood by every species without translation. Because protection is a language older than war. She continued, "We were exiled because they feared what we could become. They were right. We became something they could never imagine. A species that will end war without killing tomorrow." Tears streamed down faces across 10,000 worlds, because they finally understood. Exile did not create human hate. Exile created human purpose. Purpose so strong it shaped gravity. purpose so strong it turned killing into saving. Then she did something no leader ever did in the history of galaxies. She offered amnesty, full amnesty to enemies who tried to destroy an entire planet. No prison. No execution. No revenge. Only rehabilitation, truth trials, rebuilding of worlds, teaching of history, writing of books, planting of gardens on battlefields. She said, "If we punish you with hate, we become what you feared. If we rebuild you with truth, we become what you hoped." And the galaxy cried, because forgiveness that large is heavier than any weapon. Worlds applauded, not out of victory, but out of healing. The old council fell. A new alliance formed, not council, not empire, but common stars, a leadership where every species has equal voice, and the seat at the center of that circle, the empty chair left for the exiled, was finally taken, not by a dictator, not by a king, not by a general, but by a human child, born in exile, raised under artificial suns, now sitting in real sunlight, small hands touching the metal table that once judged her people guilty, lifting a bronze symbol identical to the one on her childhood drawings, the Earth Circle, and placing it in center. She did not give a speech full of big words. She only said, "We remember exile. So we will protect everyone who is alone." And the galaxy rose for her, not because she was powerful, but because her voice was pure. Human ships dimmed blue lights like stars breathing slow after long battle. Soldiers hugged each other like survivors of a storm. Civilians in exile cried watching stars they once feared now shining like welcome torches. The commander stood alone on flagship deck, watching the planet they saved, and whispered into the wind of space, "This is why we lived." And her officers, her people, her ancestors inside memory, all answered without voice, only with feeling, for tomorrow. The galaxy whispered humanity's name, not like fear in part 1, but like promise in part 6. Billions of voices speaking softly into stars, humanity. Not as exile. Not as enemy. But as guardians chosen by suffering, carriers of truth heavier than metal, carriers of peace sharper than any blade. When the battle ended without fire and the last council fleet lowered its flags like shadows bowing to sunrise, the galaxy did not roar in victory. It went quiet, a silence softer than music, a silence where hearts could finally hear themselves without fear, because everyone understood something too big to shout about. Humanity did not win a war. Humanity changed the meaning of war, turning violence into protection, turning death into mercy, turning exile into leadership, and that transformation felt like the entire universe exhaling after holding its breath for centuries. Ships that were built for killing were now docking gently beside human vessels, hatches opening not for prisoners, but for apology, crews walking out with empty hands raised high, tears running down faces that once believed lies, soldiers hugging humans they once called monsters, whispering broken words, "We're sorry, thank you, we didn't know." And humans, instead of standing tall as conquerors, opened arms, holding enemy soldiers like brothers finally returning from a long nightmare, their armor clanging together not as weapons, but as forgiveness wearing metal. The galaxy watched these moments live, screens glowing in every home, every market square, every ship deck, every classroom, and children saw something no history book ever showed before. War ending with love instead of hunger for more. The new alliance formed in the Council Stardome was nothing like the old one. The room that once judged humanity now echoed with laughter of children from a dozen species. Ambassadors sitting not behind walls of pride, but around a round table made of glass so clear you could see stars through it, symbolic of a future no one hides. The empty chair labeled for the exiled sat at the center, facing all voices equally, and when the human child placed the Earth Circle symbol there, the chamber did not applaud loudly. It bowed, heads lowering like ancient warriors honoring a new era, an era born from truth, built on scars, shaped by people who survived darkness without letting darkness shape them. The child spoke again, her voice small but shaking giants into tears. "We were alone in dark space. We don't want anyone else to be alone." That simple sentence became law across stars. Every species, every planet, every colony agreed. No exile again, no forced silence again, no stolen history again, no lies masked as safety again. The human fleet made its final journey not to war, but home. The journey that 11 years of exile turned into myth. a journey everyone dreamed but feared they may never see. Space stretched around the human ships like old friends finally opening roads once closed, starlight flickering on hulls like blessings carved in light, dust trails glowing behind engines like comet tears guiding travelers home. People pressed their faces to glass windows, children pointing at blue points in distance saying Earth. Earth, even though most of them had never touched soil, never felt rain on real skin, never seen oceans except in books written on recycled metal paper. The commander stood at the front of the bridge, hands shaking as she whispered coordinates she memorized as a child, Sol, home star. And when the navigators confirmed, a tremor ran through the ship, not mechanical, but emotional, because no machine ever shook from longing, only hearts do. When the fleet entered Sol system, the stars looked different, not scientifically, but spiritually, Mercury glowing like a hot memory of origin, Venus shining like dream of what could be. And Earth. Earth floating like a miracle, blue and white, clouds swirling like paint on water, oceans breathing like chest rising in sleep, forests glowing like worlds wearing emerald skin, cities glittering like spilled stars on dark canvas, and the exiled saw home not as soil, but as forgiveness waiting. Even space seemed to hold itself gently around Earth, the gravity of love stronger than gravity of mass. People cried in every ship, hands covering mouths, voices breaking like glass, names whispering through silent decks, Mama, Baba, home. Finally, scientists fell to their knees, soldiers pressed heads against walls, elders kissed screens, children stretched hands as if they could hold the planet, hold oceans, hold clouds, hold the memory of everything they lost and everything they protected. Earth responded, lights across continents rising like heartbeat waking, transmissions opening, voices calling human fleet like parents calling children who left too early, welcome home, all of you. No bitterness, no blame, only love so deep it made exile feel like the longest night before dawn. Earth cities broadcast a symbol into sky, the old sun circle, the one the council erased, shining from every tower, every shipyard, every beach, carved into sand by millions of hands waiting on shores, standing like silhouettes against waves whispering ancient lullabies that once sang newborns to sleep. The fleet landed not in military bases, but around oceans, ships floating like islands of return, ramps opening like bridges between past and future, humans stepping onto soil slowly, like kissing ground with feet. Some knelt and touched earth with both hands, crying into sand, whispering we're home, we made it. Others hugged strangers because exile makes everyone family. Soldiers laid helmets in water letting waves wash war from steel. Mothers lifted babies into sunlight saying this is real sky. Children laughed at birds like birds were mythical creatures. Old veterans hugged trees like trees were their mothers. Earth leaders did not greet them with ceremony. They greeted them with silence, standing with open arms, tears shining on cheeks like oceans made of emotion, because sometimes the greatest welcome is a hug without words. In the background, the galaxy watched, ambassadors streaming messages across stars, citizens of thousands of planets watching humans return to the one place that birthed them, hearts shaking because they understood the meaning. A species exiled for truth returned without revenge. A species capable of building star machines capable of crushing worlds used them to protect worlds. A species powerful enough to rule chose instead to heal. In the new council, a memorial was built, not a statue of generals, not a tower of weapons, but a garden, soil from Earth mixed with soil from every planet that apologized, planted with seeds from exile farms grown under dark suns, watered with tears of ambassadors who once voted to erase history. The garden was named the place where the stars made peace, a circle of living green that grows every year, roots spreading like forgiveness, leaves whispering when wind passes like voices of ancestors saying, we suffered so they don't have to. Schools bring children there, telling them the story not as legend of war, but as lesson of truth. That exile did not break humans, it revealed them, showed the galaxy what leadership built on pain can create, not empire, but empathy. The final scene belongs not to soldiers, not to commanders, but to a single human child walking along the beach of Earth, waves touching her feet like the planet kissing its own future, holding a seed taken from exile garden in her palm. She digs a small hole and plants it in wet sand, whispering grow everywhere, and in that moment, that tiny seed carries the weight of everything. Exile, return, forgiveness, future, growing with roots reaching beyond sand, beyond soil, reaching into story, into destiny. Behind her, stars rise and the galaxy whispers humanity's name. Not in fear, but like promise, like prayer, like song. Humanity, protect us. Humanity, guide us. Humanity, we trust you. And the waves answer like heartbeat of world. They came back, not to rule stars, but to protect them.